Noah Rothman, senior writer for National Review. Good morning, Noah.
Good morning, Hugh. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yesterday, I listened late to the commentary podcast, and all of them are resigned to Donald Trump being the nominee. And I say resigned because they don't like him. I'm in Switzerland. I'm going to vote for whoever the Republican nominee is, but I also don't think it's over. In fact, I think it's reframed, and anything could happen because Nikki attracts a different sort of voter than Trump does. What do you think?
I mean, that's right. She does attract a different sort of voter. The problem is a lot of those voters just aren't Republicans. If we learned anything from Iowa and New Hampshire, Donald Trump owns registered Republicans. He particularly owns non-college voters, which make up a healthy portion of the Republican primary electorate. That's a big problem for Nikki Haley. We don't have any polling out of South Carolina since the voting started, so you don't want to prejudge that electorate necessarily. But that electorate is made up of a lot of those voters. I would be very surprised to see if the momentum she's gained out of these first two contests translates into anything like closing that deficit, which we ahead of Iowa was something like 30 points in Trump's favor.
What age were you in 1976, Noah?
I was to be born.
Okay, you were not yet born. Good. In 1976, which was my first presidential campaign, Jerry Ford beat Ronald Reagan by 1% in New Hampshire. And then he won a couple more. Then North Carolina came along, 4 or 5 contests into it, and Reagan won. And then all of a sudden we were off to the races. We actually got to a convention that was somewhat in doubt. It was so close that Ronald Reagan named Richard Schweiker as his running mate, a liberal from Pennsylvania. Stupid move, by the way. And didn't get him over the top. And so Ford was the nominee. I think that Donald Trump is very much like Jerry Ford, an incumbent or a quasi-incumbent. Very hard to beat, but I also think it's possible. I don't think it's impossible at all. Why is everyone in a hurry for it to be over?
Well, it would be very weird for a nominee in the modern primary system, which it was that way in '76, but it was still very nascent, to win Iowa and New Hampshire and not go on to win the nomination. We really haven't just seen that in the modern era, and there's the mechanics of fundraising here that are probably going to be the biggest X factor, whether Nikki Haley can raise enough to stay in the race. Now, she's taking on a tactic that is very interesting. I'll grant you that. She's decided to stay in the race, and she's decided to become very aggressive towards the nominee. Mirabile visu, we haven't seen that from anybody going after Donald Trump at all. But in doing so, she's attracting a lot of apparently new donors. She says she got $1 million out of her concession speech / baiting speech on New Hampshire primary night. That could keep her in the race for some time, but I wonder if the news cycle is going to get away from her, which would sap those small dollar donors. What's happening on the border right now has the potential to attract attention from Republican voters away from this primary race as it fades and focus more on the general election and Donald Trump, as that's his signature issue. Now, Donald Trump has to play along. So far, he's not.
I am surprised by two things, Noah.
All the bait.
I'm surprised by two things. Number one, that she did not go to the border on the day after New Hampshire. She went to South Carolina, did a rally, and I understand that. But I sure would be down at Eagles Pass, and I would live down there because I think it's probably of the saliency issue, it's probably number one. Number two is public education. And then I would talk consistently about public education. The second thing, she's not on the show today. She wasn't on yesterday. The invitation is standing. I think she has to do every show every day that will invite her, don't you?
Absolutely. She owes her campaign to these big moments that she engineered on the debate stage and on the trail, mostly on the debate stage. And that is what got her momentum, got her attention. And I don't know if the press wants to play along. Have you seen how the Associated Press, how the Washington Times has characterized Nikki Haley's speech? They said she declared victory. She didn't declare victory. She explicitly conceded the race and congratulated Donald Trump on his victory. It's neuro-linguistic programming from Donald Trump without actually the conditioning. They just simply adopted it right away. Why? Yeah. Because they want the primary to be over. They want to go after Trump right now. Everybody seems
the reason I think the reason they did that is because Donald Trump gave a very, very, again, tactically, you can't beat Trump's intuition. He attacked her for that and created a storyline on the night of the election.
Yeah, but it's wrong. Why?
It might be wrong, but it worked. It worked.
It's absolute abdication of the press's responsibility. If your impression from that night was Nikki Haley declared victory, that's false, and it's the obligation of reporters to correct that impression. They're not doing it. They're
But,
just
but,
advocating the
this
wrong.
is not the Queen of Marbury. What are the rules? The Queen's rules for fighting?
Right.
These are not those.
Marquis, yeah, something along
Marquis
those lines.
of something or other rules.
Marquis of Queensberry.
Marquis of Queensberry. There you go. Takes a village. We don't. That's not how we play this game. We play this game, my goodness, like Caesar on the way to the Forum, minus the blood. And so this game has just gotten begun, and I think Team Haley's made a couple of mistakes, but they got 30 days till South Carolina. And you pointed out something. We don't have any polling out of South Carolina, do we?
Not since the voting started. And Nikki Haley has decided that her role is going to be to expose Donald Trump's general election liabilities at long last. She went after him on that debate stage after declaring, I lost. Congratulations, Donald Trump, saying he has an abominable electoral record. He gets confused very often. He's saying things that don't make a lot of sense. Oh, and also, he won't debate me, that coward. Big general
And she goes
election
on to talk
liability.
then about schools, her record as governor, her foreign policy experience. She's making a new pitch because it's not. I used the analogy earlier. Noah, you ever been to Disney World or Disneyland?
I've not.
When you come off of a ride, you have to make a strategic choice where to go next because all the other rides have got long lines, and your world changes based upon you just did Thunder Run. You're not going to go back in line and do Thunder Run again. You're going to go to a different ride. And so she's got Rick Wiley, very smart guy, senior strategist, pretty good team. Her comms team drives me a little bit crazy, but and she's got some money. I'm just not in favor of shutting it down.